You know, it can't just be the wide receivers that do all the heavy lifting in 2024.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media at Yahoo Sports. Also did a little bit of time at WSMV in Nashville. Thanks for joining us. Today on the show, we talk about Ole Miss's offense and the tight end room that are building towards a potentially explosive 2024. We have the 12 personnel conversation again, as we do probably 2 or 3 times a year. We talk about Lane Kiffin warning everybody what helmet technology is likely to mean, and something about Ole Miss's Pro Day is aggravating me, and we talk through that. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first podcast listen every single day, and a special hello to the everydayers that make the show what it is. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things just a little bit further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find that next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Ole Miss's offense cannot be just 100% wide receiver based. We talked about how good this wide receiver room could be with Tre Harris, Jordan Watkins, Deion Smith, Juice Wells, Ayden Williams, Caden Lee. The names go on and on and on, but the wide receiver room cannot be all that the offense is. That Ole Miss needs options offensively. And I think one of those options is going to be the tight end position, and specifically Caden Prieskorn. Now, Caden Prieskorn famously last season was injured the first 3 weeks of the season, came back, was still injured, and played essentially, as he said, for the love of playing, came back against Alabama, was still like really, really banged up and not near 100%, but by the end of the season, he started feeling a little bit better. And then if you get down to the game against Penn State, you see he had 10 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also had a catch for a 2-point conversion. This was a really big moment for Caden Prieskorn and this Ole Miss offense. This was a situation where Tre Harris was going to be the guy getting all the attention, although there was nobody on the number one defense in college football that could cover Tre Harris. But Caden Prieskorn formed another weapon that really helped unlock that defense. Caden Prieskorn is a good tight end. He is 6 foot, 4, 250-ish pounds, plays with his hand in the dirt. He's a traditional type tight end and an excellent receiver of the football. Now, we all know that when a Lane Kiffin offense is working at its peak performance, the tight ends are going and doing a lot of work for that offense. And Caden Prieskorn has a chance, and this tight end room in general has a chance to be a weapon for the Ole Miss Rebels in 2024. Listen, Jordan Watkins did some work in the middle of the field last year. He was Mr. Reliable on Ole Miss's offense. Now, imagine pairing him with a Caden Prieskorn in the middle of the field. We have not seen both of them healthy at Ole Miss yet. That's not something. We've seen glimpses. We've seen what a healthy Jordan Watkins can do. We saw that against LSU to where he just kind of carved them up. And we saw in the Peach Bowl what a healthy Caden Prieskorn can do. And you're going to have this offense within a chance to put them together, let them meld together. Now, the question becomes, is that the slot type receiver that you're looking for in Jordan Watkins? And is he optimal to pair with Caden Prieskorn? Is that pairing exactly what you're looking for in the middle of the field? Or is it somebody like Juice Wells or Deion Smith or Caden Lee in the slot position, or at tight end, Dae'Quan Wright appears as well because he's more of a receiving threat tight end for Ole Miss. There are so many options that could be done in this offense. You have Tre Harris, who's going to be getting the double team outside every single play, because if he doesn't, he's going to absolutely destroy the defense. So the defense has to account for whichever side Tre Harris is playing on. We know that Lane Kiffin likes to move people around, and he likes to use them schematically to open some stuff up. We know that. Now, is it going to be better for a Caden Prieskorn or a Dae'Quan Wright in the middle of the field? Now, the conversation that we probably need to have is, what does 12 personnel look like for Ole Miss's offense going into 2024? I'm a huge, massive proponent of 12 personnel. And 12 personnel, that essentially means one running back, two tight ends. So 2 tight ends on the field is what I'm talking about when I say 12 personnel. Imagine Dae'Quan Wright and Caden Prieskorn, especially in the red zone. If there's ever a situation where the tempo gets to slow down and you realize that you're not going to have to go 12 personnel a whole series down the field, but maybe if it gets into the red zone and he stretches it out, and a Dae'Quan Wright or a Caden Prieskorn are lined up as outside type wide receivers, because Ole Miss uses its tight end in a unique way by not putting the hand in the dirt all the time, sometimes stretching them out wide and then attacking middle type areas of the field. So imagine that you take off a Jordan Watkins and replace him with a Dae'Quan Wright. You can do 2 tight ends stacked up behind each other. You can do on different sides of the field. And because of their height, because of their weight, and because of their size, you can post up on interior linebackers, and that can become a weapon. If you listen to Rob Gronkowski, the famous, New England tight end, Tampa Bay tight end, he always talked about the matchup problems that 12 personnel brings in. He talks about how they can be used, how you can affect the defense with those 2 tight end players, because you're so worried about trying to have to match up to them. A linebacker does not know if he needs to come down or come behind him if they do a levels type concept, for lack of a better word. Levels concept is just basically routes going at all the levels of the defense. But the purpose of that will be to take a linebacker and put him in a conflicted position to where you don't know whether it's going to go to the receiver in front of the linebacker or if the linebacker is going to come down and you're going to be able to hit that middle level. All of this is a legit possibility in this offense. If we remember when FAU was really good in 2019, this was the year that got Lane Kiffin the Ole Miss job. That FAU team had Harrison Bryant and John Rain, and they used them both effectively. The offensive coordinator of that team, Charlie Weiss Jr. This is in the offense. It's there. Whether or not they use it, that's another story, but it is there to where it can potentially be used. Who is going to be the Harrison Bryant? Now, obviously, you look at the receiving numbers that Caden Prieskorn put up in that Peach Bowl. Look at that. 10 catches, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. He seems like he could be the Harrison Bryant of this unit, but you still need a John Rain. And there's a lot of good tight ends in this tight end room. You have Dae'Quan Wright, you have Hudson Wolf, you have Javante Connor, and you have Dylan Hipp. This tight end room all of a sudden goes 5 deep. And they're different type of receivers. You have the big upperclassman tight end in Caden Prieskorn. You have the receiving tight end in Dae'Quan Wright, who was a high school wide receiver that converted to tight end. We talked to Dae'Quan on the show a couple of weeks back. Hudson Wolf, more of a receiving threat, but he's like 6'7". And he got injured a couple of times, but he's worked all the way back after an injury his high school year. Javante Connor actually played hand in the dirt, tight end in high school and is a really good athlete. He's put on a little bit of weight this year as well. And Dylan Hipp is the young guy that he's just trying to get onto the field. This offense can be special, and the specialness of this offense will be the tight end room. Tre Harris, Jordan Watkins, Deion Smith, Juice Wells, Ayden Williams, Caden Lee, all of those guys are really good. Do not hear me say those aren't good. And how far Ole Miss goes is going to be really important that they play well as well. But if you want this offense to be special, if you want this offense to be next level, if you want this offense to be what the Tennessee offense was in 2022, the tight end position, specifically in Caden Prieskorn and Dae'Quan Wright, they have to perform at an extremely high level this year. There's a lot of weapons offensively on this football team, and they need to take steps to move up. Now, we'll have questions going into the transfer portal about the running back position. Will Henry Parrish make it back to Oxford? Which it looks like that's going to happen. Heck, there's even rumors right now that like Tyler Barron may end up at Ole Miss after the spring semester in Louisville. So that is another rumor that's on the grapevine as well. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Now, everybody says this transfer portal window that's coming up here in about 2 to 3 weeks is going to be absolutely crazy. And everything I'm hearing says the same thing. So we'll see exactly how that goes as well. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. The coach known for whistling when he sees big plays on the field now can just tell the quarterback about that big play into his ear. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that pushed it further than the rest. Just like all the new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The NC State Wolfpack are obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. This team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in their first 2 games of the tournament. Wins over Texas Tech and Oakland have them set up to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue. That's exactly what the Wolfpack have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada to go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy application. What does that mean? Well, it offers a familiar experience for existing daily fantasy service players with a social twist. You can play with a friend/teammate. Provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports. Make you realize that DFS is fun alone, but like a lot of the other things, it's better when doing it together with friends. It shows that the synergy from working together gives you a better chance of winning than going at it alone. The team in this situation is how you win in Better Together. It creates a shared experience. Splitting contest-style entries gives the feeling of being connected even when you're apart. Your bracket's already busted, right? Well, if you're tired about the same old daily fantasy grind, you want to looking for something that's a little bit different, where you make a roster, or you cross your fingers and you just hope the best, or maybe you can, check out and lose on the last leg of your pick'em entry. Well, this is Better Together. It's the first cooperative daily fantasy platform. It's where teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them, by picking more or less on real-time player stats. Strategize with your partner to boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the DFS movement. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in prizes. Remember the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume because of all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every single day to bring you the best stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. One interesting thing, and we talked about it in our, quote, practice report Tuesday, but Lane Kiffin mentioned in his post-practice press conference about the defensive coaches didn't really think things through whenever they announced technology going into helmets for their team. And Lane Kiffin, who is known for being the coach that whistles when he notices a big play and tries to get the quarterback's attention to let him know what's going on, now all he has to do is simply tell the quarterback in his ear. Those speakers are going to go to like 15 seconds on the play clock, well before Ole Miss snaps the ball. So you're sitting there and the thing is like, hey, you've got your, Jordan Watkins on a 7 route running a post. He's on the free safety. They're running, or the people in the press box might notice like, hey, cover one, cover one, cover one. All of this, they're going to be able to let the quarterback know really quickly. And all of a sudden they're going to be at even more of an offense than they were before. Now, the defense, I understand this entirely. And I said this on Tuesday. The whole purpose of this is defensive coaches wanted this because they want their players to get their feet in the ground as soon as possible. That's what you always hear them say when you're playing against tempo teams, is you want to be able to get the feet in the ground. What the problem is, and what Lane Kiffin is talking about, is the offense isn't trying to put their feet in the ground. They're trying to talk about what the defense is doing. And with more time in that situation, knowing what the defense is doing, the offense is going to be able to attack it. Here's the quote. Lane Kiffin says, I think differently. And I think after using it, it is like having a cheat code in Madden offensively. Think about what is being said there. A cheat code in Madden offensively. And what that means to me is that Lane Kiffin is going to have a dedicated person that is in the press box, on the speakers, looking at the coverages of the defense, and they're going to try and find those Lane Kiffin shot plays. What they were doing 10% of the time, now they might do it 20% of the time. Because with this, it takes a little bit of the problem out of it. Before, whenever there's a shot play, you were hoping you were going to make the correct call. The defense was going to do the right thing, but you weren't exactly sure. And if they gave it away, you would whistle, you would do whatever you had to do to let the quarterback know. Let Jaxson Dart know what's going on. And because of that, the defense honestly had a little bit of more of an advantage. Now, with this speaker, essentially, and the way that college football is being set up, with the point that you can use electronic devices like iPads on the sideline. Analysts can dig in on those iPads on the sidelines. They can do all that. You can have people set up to have an iPad to be done somewhere in the video room in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. He notices something, he can let them know what's going on out at the football field. They can see that look again. They can radio it in, and all of a sudden, what happened against South Carolina in 2020, where he threw the clipboard and 90-yard touchdowns happen, that can happen again. That can happen much more frequency. Lane Kiffin, in his history, in his reputation, is that of an offensive genius. And not necessarily of the stuff that happens with the tempo and all of that. Where Lane Kiffin makes his money, and where Lane Kiffin gets his reputation of being that offensive genius, is from being able to spot in real time what the defense is doing to him, and also being able to know exactly what has to be done to take advantage of that particular thing. That is the secret to Lane Kiffin. That is why Jaxson Dart this year is going to have a phenomenal year. And with the helmet technology and all that going in, I imagine Jaxson Dart, he makes quick reads to begin with. I think you're going to see him making quicker reads even harder. Now, going through practice right now, Lane Kiffin talked about this on Tuesday. They're using it in practice. They're figuring out how to use it and what can be said and the information that can be passed on without overloading your quarterback with everything that's going on. We are in the age of being a multitasker at quarterback. While Jaxson Dart is scanning the defense, looking over is like, okay, this is cover 6 or something like that. He also needs to hear a quarterback get instructions from his coach. It's like, hey, your progression might be the inside receiver, the tight end on the wide receiver. They might have a way the progression works. And you can find out if that can work in real time. And that's what they're working on in practice right now. But what Lane Kiffin said, and I will talk about the quote again right here. He said, I think differently. And I think after using it, it's like having a cheat code in Madden offensively. What that means is whenever they started testing this out, they didn't use it in the Peach Bowl because they didn't understand exactly how it would work and they didn't have everything down and they didn't want to mess with what they were doing because they have a nice system to get plays into the offense. But now that they've had a chance to play with it a little bit, you can see that Lane Kiffin's like, oh, I can do this. Wait, we can do this. We have time to get this done. Jaxson Dart can do this. And because of that, Lane Kiffin's thinking of like 4D chess ways to make the offense run even a little bit faster. And the other side of it is the defense just going to get lined up quicker. That's all they're doing. They're still going to have to play a simplistic style of defense because of that. It's going to be really interesting to see. Honestly, I'm really fired up, but Lane Kiffin describing it as a cheat code offensively on Madden, that should scare the heck out of every coach in the Southeastern Conference and beyond, honestly. Still more to come on Locked On Ole Miss, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listen, Ole Miss had its pro day yesterday, and there's something that's bothering me about that, and we're going to kind of talk through that when we come back. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend on baseball, or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created the Fire TV Channels app to deliver a consistent supply of the latest videos of your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On, as well as most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV Channels let you dive into all the in-game analysis, all the highlights, and the more to keep you up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention all the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV Channels on the Fire TV app and on Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV Channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and shout out to the everydayers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Be part of history. Now, Ole Miss had its pro day yesterday, and there's something that is just bothering me about this situation. Now, I don't cover pro day stuff because to me, it's not that particular interesting, but I can understand why Ole Miss promotes pro day stuff, because that lets everybody else know that players on your team are competing for the NFL. And that is where it gets important. That's the important part of this. But the issues that have happened. Yesterday, somebody, and they didn't say who, requested that Ole Miss didn't release the results of the pro day information. Okay, that's fine. But here's the problem. If you are going to overly promote this as a spectator type event, if you are going to invite the media to come out and cover it, then you can't be opaque with the results. In that case, it's either you did well or you did poorly. And whether or not you're going to draft a player somewhere in the draft is not my problem. Remember, these are all players that in some point, likely in the last year or so, received money from the Grove Collective, which means they received money from outside people who might have a vested interest in seeing the results of these players on Pro Day. Not showing those results is just letting people go out and you're watching people exercise. And that right there is not doing anything for your brand. It's not doing anything for your fan base, and it's certainly not going to do anything to help out the Grove Collective's March to Victory campaign, which is currently going on now as they're trying to raise money for the next batch of pro dayers. It's a simple situation. You cannot treat college players like college players anymore. You honestly, the moment that you involved pay for play, and that's exactly what's going on. Let's not hide that at all. It's pay for play. Whenever that happens and you hide from the people that pay the salary of these players, that's a problem. That's a guaranteed problem. And yes, I understand that college football is an absolute mess right now. If you look at everything, you got players that can transfer every single year. The fan base is responsible for paying the salaries, not the universities getting the millions of dollars of TV money. And all of that, you don't even do what you can for these people paying your salaries. It's the weirdest situation going on in college sports right now. The people that are paying for everything are consistently railed on by the universities, the TV groups, and the media. It's just, hey, shut up and give. And you can't do that. That's not a feasible thing. You can't have a situation that we have in college football right now and treat it like college football in 2008. You can't. People aren't going to do it because what you need more than anything is the heartstrings to be pulled on. You need them to have a sense of ownership in what's going on if you want the giving to continue. Otherwise, it's just going to do what Ebbs Fleet United did. Everybody remember Ebbs Fleet United? That was like a 6th division soccer team in England in like 2006. And Ebbs Fleet decided that, hey, we're going to be the first ever fan-owned team. Fans are going to go in and do whatever type of a giving model to give to Ebbs Fleet United. The fans own this team. And everybody thought that was cool for a little bit. For 2 years, Ebbs Fleet United was really cutting edge. Heck, I was an owner of Ebbs Fleet United. I got to feel that little bit of importance. Here's the problem. After about 2 or 3 years ago, people just quit giving. People quit just taking ownership because the ownership that they thought they had wasn't really there. It was all placated. And I feel this situation going on right now with NIL, I feel like a lot of that is going on to where it's ownership and name only, and it's kind of shut up and give. And things like this pro day thing, it just makes me wonder if it's going that direction. So like I said, them not being completely transparent on pro day is a problem. It just is. And we'll see exactly how that goes over the next several weeks, honestly. But anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. Every day as we have Bill Flowers joining our normal beat reporters this weekend to talk spring football. I think we have Michael Katz a little bit later on today. But for your second listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And for those of you on YouTube, we'll send you there right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.